Good evening, CAFS crew. Hope you guys are well. Happy Monday. I hope you guys had a really good day today. Thanks for joining me tonight. Tonight we're chatting about connections in community and family studies. So I'm just going to welcome our friends over on Instagram. So tonight is all about connections across our course, and a huge welcome to you guys on Instagram. Thanks for joining me. Tonight we're talking about connections in our course and really making those strategic connections across community and family studies, literally from day dot. From the very first moment our students walk in our door, making those really strong connections to our syllabus and within the course is highly crucial for success. And I think many of us take it for granted. We really kind of fly way too quickly through the content and forget that we kind of have this syllabus that we need to deliver that isn't, like, I know it's two separate syllabuses or syllabi, but we definitely have really strong connections across our course. And that was completely intentional. When the syllabus was amended in 2013, there were very clear distinctions that were made that our syllabus was going to be something that our kids could use, that was, really student friendly, but also for the kids to be able to connect those concepts across the course. So let me know if you teach year 11 or year 12, or if you teach both. I want you to write both in the comments for me. So if you just teach year 11, put year 11 in the comments. If you just teach year 12, put year 12 in the comments. And then if you teach both, let us know. And if you're watching this back later on, you can join in the fun and let us know, what kind of path you are on. As I've mentioned to you guys before, I was really lucky that I had both year 11 and year 12 for, the best part of, my 16 years in the classroom. And it was so great to have those connections across. All right, so some of you guys are saying both. Some of you guys are saying year 11. Some of you are saying year 12. Now, I reckon a large number of CAFS teachers and even other stage 6 teachers don't focus enough on what we do in year 11. What I always say to my students, they say, is this going to count towards your next year? You know how they say that? Is this going to count towards a HSE? No, but it's the foundation that is going to set them up for success into year 12. If we get it right in year 11, the kids are going to really fly in year 12. And there's lots of things that we can do as CAFS teachers to make those really firm connections right there and then in year 11. So tonight we're going to talk about what that looks like in our course, some common mistakes CAFS teachers are still making with this. And look, our syllabus was amended in 2013, so it wasn't assessed in 2015 for the HSC. So we don't have a whole heap of years under our belt. We've only got 7 years of this current HSC, this current syllabus that has been assessed. So there are some small little tweaks, as I always say, that can really make a huge difference with our students. So I'm going to share with you guys what I've learned from my classroom experience over the last 7 years, what I've learned from presenting and developing professional learning over the last 12 years, but more importantly, 7 years of the amended syllabus. What I've learned from you guys as CAFS teachers, and what I've also been able to observe within my coaching mentoring sessions, my online courses, and most recently inside the CAFS Collective, my community and family studies membership. So I'm going to use a bit of an analogy on this one, and I'm going to give you lots of very detailed examples for year 11. So grab your pen and paper. I've got mine handy right here. Grab yours. I've got some notes. I'm going to kind of use those as well. But as I mentioned before, I want you guys to be really intentional, really purposeful with what you do. So let's cast our minds back to, hey Naomi, let's cast our minds back to 2020. So for you guys, you might remember it as, nice start to the year, really great start to the year. And then in March, COVID hit. And I think that was a kind of the catapult for a lot of things happening in our lives, in our family lives, in our work lives, but, obviously the world at large. So in 2020, I was gifted a very special package of teaching 3 year 11 community and family studies classes. I was working at a senior campus and we had lots of kids. We had 5 CAFS classes that year. And my 2 colleagues who I worked alongside of, one hadn't taught CAFS before. So a huge shout out to him. I did kind of throw him under the bus and said, look, I've got you. I will support you. Don't stress. You can listen to me. We can kind of, team teach. You can I'll teach you all that I know. My other colleague had taught it a couple of years, but she wasn't the most collegial person in the world. And as much as I showed and mentored, things kind of didn't go to plan with that one. That's a whole nother story. So 2020, I had 3 Year 11 classes. And back in the day when I worked in the Catholic system, I might have had like 15, 16 girls max. If you work in the public system, you would know that classes are jam-packed. And I had about 32 kids. I think at one stage I had 33 in one class, 33 students. One was an all-girls class. The 2 other classes were had both males and females in my class. And hey, Jess, nice to see you. Thanks for sharing that with Year 11. And so I had, 30 times 3. I had a lot of kids. I had a really big, number of kids. And I really struggled during COVID because I had lots of students to manage. But prior to that, what I had been able to have, I had a lot of success with these girls and guys because I set them up from the beginning, with success. I showed them, what a clear paragraph looks like. I showed them how to annotate their responses, how to apply the glossary of keywords all the way through their answers. And I think it wasn't until I had this amount of kids to kind of help and mentor and support that I really made some strong connections across our course. Now, I delivered the 2013 amended syllabus across New South Wales on behalf of Atchman, New South Wales. Kim Rodenberg and myself co-wrote the package that was going to be delivered across the state to hundreds of CAFS teachers. I think it was delivered to 450 odd CAFS teachers. And even back then, because it was so new, we were kind of like predicting what that might look like on the ground. But it wasn't until I think in 2020, it's not that long ago, 2 years ago, that I think these connections were made so strong because I had to work out the best way to, first of all, teach my beautiful CAFS students in Year 11, but also teach my colleagues how to teach it the most effective way. Throw on top of that, we had COVID. So trying to, you guys know what it was like, trying to communicate your message to your students via a Google Classroom or Canvas, whatever school bag, whatever platform you guys used. We had Google Classroom. Most of us had no idea. I was lucky. I had some sort of idea because we used Google Classroom in a previous school. And we had to kind of, we had that happening as well, but making each of our lessons really intentional. So I'm going to share with you guys tonight some of those things that you can do straight away to make some really big connections with your course. So I talk about CAFS. How do you guys explain CAFS? I know I had to explain it today. I was on a beautiful chat with Gabby Stroud, the author of Teacher and Dear Parents for some of her members. And I spoke about my journey of leaving the classroom, and I mentioned what CAFS is. And I kind of said, it's like sociology. It's like, you're supporting people within the community and families and advocating for people and that type of thing. Anyway, I really believe that the core concepts in our course, if you get them right from the beginning, your students are going to really succeed in the HSC. They're going to succeed in Year 11, but they're even going to fly even higher in Year 12 if you get the basics right and if you nail those concepts in Year 11. So I talk about the concepts of CAFS as not content. I don't say we're going to learn wellbeing. We're going to look at the concept of wellbeing and how it filters across the course. And I talk about this with my CAFS collective members, inside my CAFS membership, about those concepts rather than content. We always talk about content, like we have to nail this content, but I really think if we nail the concepts and how they connect with each other across the course, we're going to have a huge impact on our students. We're going to get them from going, I kind of just get it, to really applying their understanding. So let me take you through some of these. The first one is wellbeing. We know it's the umbrella of our whole course. Back in the day, pre-2013, I think it was 2010, I think our exam specs changed, our exam specifications changed. Back in the day, we had to have every single question related to wellbeing, not research methodology. Our parenting and our groups in context questions all had some sort of spiel linking to wellbeing. Now, that's not the case now. We only do that if it mentions it in the question or if it's in our option for part C of our option. So we know that wellbeing is filtered throughout the course. We know it comes up in, groups in context. It comes up in parenting and caring. It comes up in all of our options. It comes up in our Part C, our 15 marker. I'm going to talk about this week as well, our 15 marker, and what you guys can do to have a really big shift in your student understanding. But it is literally filtered through all of our course. If we get it right from the very beginning, our kids are going to have so much more success. Now, I know some of you guys like to kind of get through it and get it done, but what I think we're not doing is actually making those intentional connections from year 11. And what I mean by that is saying, when we're talking about, SPECS is our acronym, when we're talking about those connections across social wellbeing and physical wellbeing and emotional wellbeing, we're not showing those examples through other lenses. We're kind of using our examples maybe about the kids, like, for you, how does your, wellbeing impact on blah, blah, blah? How does your, if you're feeling crappy, through the day, how does that impact on your physical wellbeing or your emotional wellbeing, that type of thing? We kind of don't go beyond that and then talk about what this might look like for our parents, for our carers, for, aged individuals, that type of thing. So I think what we can be doing better in that is showing the connections with examples from year 12, but more importantly, showing how those connections with those concepts interrelate. So how does someone's physical well-being impact on them emotionally? How does their emotional well-being impact them socially? If they, are feeling a loss of income or feeling quite stressed and might have job loss, how does that then impact them emotionally? That type of thing. So we really need to have those intentional connections across the course right from the very beginning. And we do that through the lens of using examples, situations, and case studies with our kids. Okay, so the next one is needs. Now, we know needs comes up in year 11. It's like the second thing that we have a look at. I'm just going to plug my phone in. Should have done that before. We have those connections across the course. Groups in context is where we see needs coming up a lot. And we need to make sure the kids really get it because they have to prioritise those needs with the two most significant needs for that particular group. What we also can do is straight away link it to those organisations. So the organisations that are in the community to support the group, how does that help them satisfy their needs? So what we could do in year 11 is actually talk about those groups and then talk about how do they satisfy those needs, through that lens of those organisations. Again, it comes up again in parenting and caring, satisfying the needs of the dependent, having that clear connection. Let's introduce stuff in year 11. When we get to that stuff in year 12, it's really straightforward for the kids. It also comes up in social impact for technology with consumer demand and human needs. And then it comes up with individuals and work, how does work meet our specific needs? Again, if the kids don't nail it in year 11, those concepts, they're going to forget about it in year 12, but they're also not going to have those really meaningful connections that we want them to see. So again, we need to be really intentional and purposeful about each of our teaching and learning activities, and that does take time. And what I've started to do with my CAFS Collective members and during, just before leaving the classroom during COVID, making that really clear. So having connections across the course and showing my kids, okay, we're going to learn it here, but we're also going to learn it later on. And when we do kind of learn that, remember how in year 11, we learned it like this. So having those really intentional connections. The other one that comes up in year 11 in resource management is resources. Now, resources, some of us kind of go, oh, it's not really touched on much in year 12, but it is, because we look at it again and again with lots of our courses. So in research methodology, we look at managing resources, both human and non-human. We also look at groups in context with resources, factors affecting access to services through KMET or knowledge, money, energy, and time. That's that resource there. We also look at social impact of technology, factors affecting access to and acceptance of resources and of technology as being a resource. And then in individuals and work, again, managing resources. These all might sound really simple things to do and things that we often take for granted. And I think too many of us are still flying through year 11 content, especially for resource management. On paper, it says, I think it's 20% of course time, but what I suggest to many teachers is you need to do it justice and actually spend that time in year 11 getting those concepts right. There's so much content in resource management because these are the big picture concepts, the umbrella concepts that our course kind of fits under. And if we get it right then in year 11, imagine what we can do in year 12. And I often think that that's a bit of a disjoint between year 11 and year 12. Sometimes we're just kind of getting through year 11. You know how it is. Like some of the kids are, really, they don't want to be there. You have all those changes and it's really disjointed. You're trying to teach your kids the skills and the paragraphing and everything's happening. They're just getting used to year 11 work. I think we spend too much time just getting through rather than thinking about where does this fit within the big picture. Okay, so another one which I love to connect in year 11 and make it really strategic, intentional is our support. So inside one of our, I think our first or second masterclass session with our CAFS collective members, we made this really, intentional. So we made sure that our resources, our teaching and learning activities hit the nail on the head when we're talking about this stuff about support. So in year 11, we look at support, both formal and informal support, government services, community organisations. Again, it comes up within groups in context. So it comes up firstly in types of services. When we look at those types of services, financial services, counselling services, educational services, accommodation, that type of thing. And then again with organisations that within the community that support the group. And what I suggest to teachers is that wanting to learn about that stuff in year 11, make those really clear, government and community organisations in year 11, to then use those same examples in year 12. So rather than having to reinvent the wheel, I want you guys to start to kind of go, where does this fit within the grand scheme of things? Where does this particular concept, instead of looking at it as content, where does the concept fit within the grand scheme of CAFS? And then you'll find that the resources you're pulling together, the teaching and learning activities that you're putting together are really purposeful and they're really intentional because you're thinking about the end game. You're thinking about where the kids are going with it. And the kids will start to see that connection. You might hear things like, oh, miss, hang on, we did that activity back in year 11. You're like, yeah, that's why. That's the reason. Oh, miss, that example that we looked at, when we did that case study for parenting and caring, that's how that connected with this. Yes, that's right, because we learned it in year 11 to make really clear connections to year 12. Alrighty, so within the stuff on support, formal and informal support, we know it comes up again, literally word for word from resource management into parenting and caring. It's literally the same stuff. Excuse me, formal and informal support. Community organisations, government services, same. Why not use some of our examples in year 11 that are actually from the parenting and caring part of the syllabus? So it's completely above board because we're using the content to then filter that through to the concepts. Again, it comes up for family and societal interactions, one of our options, and then for individuals and work, accessing support. The kids need to know, oh, hang on, support that I learned in year 11, that stuff on formal and informal support, I'm actually going to be assessed on that in year 12. Okay, the last one, the last two really I want to kind of cover is this stuff on personal management skills. Some of you guys have said to me, Kell, what on earth is this stuff? It kind of feels a bit disjointed, but I really see it as a way for the kids to then think about strategies, think about actions, think about things that they might need to actually propose for managing people's lives more effectively. So PMS comes up, personal management skills comes up in year 11, but there are clear connections to the year 12 content. So groups in context, one of the learn twos is propose strategies to address the issue, blah, blah, blah. Inequity issues, how do we address the issue? That proposed strategies is exactly the same as connecting that concept from year 11. Again, parenting and caring, propose strategies, same strategies, to assist parents and carers to manage multiple commitments, individuals and work. Strategies for maintaining work-life balance. It's the same stuff, it's just in a different context. So what we can start to do is actually kind of go, and I get my CAFS collective members to do this, and we did this in one of our sessions and literally last week. Where does this one concept fit within the grand scheme of things? Where does this fit within the whole, the whole realm of CAFS? Because once we have those little connections, the kids can kind of see and go, okay, it's like a bit of a puzzle. They're putting all those pieces of the puzzle together. And I think that's often one of the downfalls with our students and maybe with our teaching is that we are still teaching the content, learn to, you heard me last week, learn to, here's a HSC question, or let's move on. What we need to do is to kind of go, here's wellbeing. Let me show you where it also is in the syllabus. Let me show you what you need to do to make that really strong connection. When we look at support, let me give you exact examples that you can use in your, in your writing, in your justification, in your proposal, all those sorts of things in your strategies to show that you have a broader understanding of the course. The other thing that also happens throughout our whole syllabus, filtering from year 11, is stuff on gender all the way through to year 12. And we know that research is repeated a lot. The other thing which I really believe that many CAFS teachers are possibly not doing enough of is stepping outside the bubble of the classroom. Now, I said last week to use the classroom. Some of us are using too many examples within our classroom. So we might say, hey, Jade, can you think of an example in your life how this works? And she might, as a young person, go, oh, yeah, well, my friends did this, or me and my boyfriend did this, this, and this, or me and mum. They're all good examples, but let's try to go a wider context and say, okay, in a step-parent family, what might this look like? In a sole parent family, give me an example of that. Or when you're working, when you're in the workplace, what's a really specific example that you can think of there? So what I have shared with my CAFS Collective members is start to think of situations, case studies, scenarios, and context to really bring our classroom, our content to life. The syllabus is always going to be there. The syllabus is our black and white document that kind of guides everything, but the kids need to shine and show their examples in their responses. I think, again, we need to really build on this. One of our beautiful CAFS members, Dom Frico, talked about this last week, that he loves this idea of suave, to give really specific, really unique, really applied, really varied and really explicit examples to show the marker, to show you or HSC markers that the kids can apply their understanding through different contexts. And if they're given a case study in an exam, or if they're given like a little scenario that they have to read and have to kind of deduce and have a think about, they can think about that content in that situation. They can actually replicate or apply their understanding across a number of different situations. And I really believe that's, again, like I said, maybe a bit of a missing ingredient in our classroom, that we're kind of maybe coming up with too many examples that are like related to the kids, like, about young people, when maybe we should be going kind of broader and go into the other parts of the syllabus and go, okay, where does this fit here? Employee, employer, workplace, technology, groups in context, homeless people, people with disabilities, all those types of things, to really broaden the understanding of the kids. We know that our students, our beautiful students, are often living in a bit of a bubble in their area, in their family, at home. They don't watch the news anymore for some reason. They've got their device, kind of in their face. What I've been saying to my CAFS Collective members is start to bring those contexts and situations to life a bit. And what that might look like for our young students these days, they're not going to read a magazine. They're not going to read the newspaper. And newspaper clippings, I think, are a little bit outdated. What we might get them to do is start to follow some news channels and say to them, look, on Instagram, I want you to follow a current affair. I want you to follow, probably not always a good example, some of the stories are a bit out there, but, I want you to follow ABC. I want you to follow SBS. Some of our, our media channels to kind of, for the kids to kind of hear what's happening in our community, so they can then use those types of examples in their responses. So through that lens of scenarios, situations, case studies, they're always able to think on their feet what this might look like in that situation. So literally that is resource management in a nutshell, but we can do the same thing with both individuals and groups and families and communities. So I want you guys to think about your scope and sequence and where you want to kind of fit all of those in. Some teachers have told me that they actually don't start with resource management, which I think is a massive mistake. I want to say it out loud, a big mistake, because we need to build those foundational skills and content and concepts from literally day dot in year 11. So if you don't teach it first, please move it to number one. What we've been having a discussion around inside the CAFS Collective for the second unit in our scope and sequence is around families and communities. Bringing that forward has a really good, you have a really good opportunity to have those really clear connections and have lots of opportunity to explore that. You can have an assessment task on families and communities. You can make it really rich. There's lots of great connections from year 11 to year 12. And then individuals and groups isn't so much connected to the year 12 course. There's heaps less content. Despite it looking like there's like 3 pages of the syllabus, there's actually heaps less content. Have a look at it for me and let me know. There are lots of dot points, dot points, not dot points, slash points underneath the dot points. They're like a whole big list, but that's actually less content. So having less content is really important. So I want you guys to have some really intentional connections, and even tomorrow, next week, think about where your concept fits within the bigger scheme of things, fits within the grand scheme of content in the course. So as I've mentioned, many of these little things and tips and tricks can be found inside the CAFS Collective, my Community and Family Studies membership, which is open now for mid-year intake. So we have 2 options for you guys to be able to join us. You can join us for a 6-monthly. You might only have year 12 for the rest of the year, or year 11. You might only have, be sharing a class possibly. That might be an option for you. But we also have the annual membership, which will go from now until next June, and you'll have access to the CAFS portal, where you'll have all of our masterclass sessions already in there. You can kind of binge Netflix style or dive away to things that really suit you where you are right now. But also you have my support, as well as the support of 49 other CAFS collective members inside our membership. So it's professional, and that's very different to what you would see for any of your other courses. With me, a whole group of other CAFS teachers, and it is like a learning community rather than a professional learning course. So if you would like to learn any more information or check it out, head over to thelearnnet.com/collective. And if you have any questions about it, please send me a DM, send me a message. We'll be going live again tomorrow night. And look, I know things are busy for you guys, but what we have inside the CAFS Collective is going to save you so much more time and to protect your wellbeing. So thanks for joining tonight, guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Take care. See you guys. Have a great night.